Ark again. Today we're going to dive right back into the world of Dark Souls. This game is full of memorable and amazing characters. However, not all of these characters have happy endings, and some of them have stories that are downright depressing. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at 10 of the saddest and most depressing characters from the Dark Souls series. From cursed undead to tragic heroes, these characters all have one thing in common. Their stories are sure to touch your soul on an emotional level. So if you're ready to experience a roller coaster of sadness, death, and darkness, let's get right into it. The Crestfallen Warrior is the second NPC players will meet in Dark Souls. Sat by the bonfire and Firelink Shrine, this NPC has given up on the quest of the undead before even getting started. His attitude towards the undead quest is one of fear and disinterest, convinced that he stands no chance against the powerful enemies that inhabit Lordran. Despite being surrounded by fellow undead, each with their own quests and motivations, the Crestfallen Warrior refuses to act, instead preferring to wallow in his despair and put his foolish ambitions to rest. Tragically, this despair ultimately leads to madness, and eventually the hollowing of the Crestfallen Warrior, losing his mind and attacking the player when you cross his path. So in the end, he paid the ultimate price for his fear and lack of hope. Solaire puts the soul in the Dark Souls community. This warrior with a sunny disposition is there throughout the player's journey to offer companionship and aid in jolly cooperation. Indeed, his lifelong quest to find his son is both inspirational and tragic. However, without the aid of the player character, Solaire's journey will ultimately lead him to a tragic end. As he ventures deeper into the treacherous realm of Lordran, Solaire becomes obsessed with the ideas of finding his own son, even if it means turning to the chaotic and destructive powers of the demons. In one possible ending, the player encounters Solaire in the Lost Izalith, where he has descended into madness and is now hostile to the player. It's a heart-wrenching moment that serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of obsession and the high cost of pursuing one's dreams without regard for the consequences. In Dark Souls 2, at the end of the Lost Bastille, in an area called the Sinner's Rise, players will find a boss locked away in a dark, grimy dungeon. Much of the lore surrounding the Lost Sinner is a mystery, but undoubtedly, she lives a truly depressing life. The Lost Sinner is a tragic figure whose story is shrouded in darkness and despair. According to item descriptions and lore, she has imprisoned herself in a dark dungeon, bound by chains, and wearing clothes that inflict pain upon the wearer. She is punishing herself for sins she's committed in her past, unable to forgive herself for the wrong she has done. As a boss, the Lost Sinner is a formidable foe, but her story is a reminder of the destructive power of guilt and regret. Her existence serves as a haunting reflection of the toll that these emotions can take on an individual's psyche, and her tragic fate leaves players with a sense of sorrow and empathy. Despite her status as a boss, the Lost Sinner's story is one of sadness and self-imposed suffering, a big reminder of the weight of our own past actions. The old giant marksman in Dark Souls has a sad story that's easy to overlook. Despite his friendly and helpful demeanor when encountered by the player, he's actually been through a great deal of hardship. He's been blinded, imprisoned in a tower, and most of his former comrades are either dead or insane. Lacking a sense of purpose, he spends his days carving wood figurines and reminiscing about the past. Despite his circumstances, the old giant marksman remains a remarkable sense of resilience and kindness. He's still able to use a bow and arrow with great accuracy, and he's willing to offer advice and assistance to the player. However, his story is a reminder of the tragedy of aging and loss, and the importance of finding purpose and meaning in our lives. Despite his warmth and friendliness, the old giant marksman's story is a very depressing one. The Fair Lady in Dark Souls is a tragic figure who has spent centuries tending to the parasite-infested undead who worship her. She's one of the children of chaos, born from her mother's attempts to bring chaos into the world. As a result of her condition, the Fair Lady is sickly, blind, and is in constant pain, but she finds solace in a companionship with her sister, Quelaag. Despite her hardships, the Fair Lady remains selfless and compassionate, taking on the pain of her undead followers so they may find some semblance of relief. She speaks with only her sister, finding comfort in her presence and expressing her gratitude for their bond. However, when the player takes Quelaag from her to ring the Bell of Awakening, the Fair Lady is left alone, deprived of her only source of happiness and left to suffer in solitude. Her story is a heartbreaking reminder of the sacrifices some make for the sake of others, and the pain that comes with losing those we love. Artorias of the Abyss and his companion the Great Wolf Sif share a tragic tale in Dark Souls. As one of the 4 Knights of Gwyn, Artorias dedicated his life to stopping the spread of the Abyss. But after encountering its immense power in New Londo, he was ultimately overcome by it. He left behind his enchanted shield to protect Sif and face the full brunt of the Abyss's corruption. Left to mourn Artorias, Sif guards his master's grave in Darkroot Garden, fighting off anyone who attempts to take his crest and share in his fate. The player, seeking Artorias' crest, must face Sif in a heartbreaking encounter, where the loyal hound fights only to protect the player from the same tragic fate that befell his master. It is a story that touches the heart of players, as the sacrifice and loyalty of Artorias and Sif exemplify the tragic and noble themes of the Souls franchise. Lucatiel of Mirrah is a proud and skilled knight who journeys to Jurang Lake to find the cure for the curse of the undead that has befallen her. Her memory slowly deteriorates with each encounter with the player, causing her to fear losing herself entirely. Despite her status and skill, Lucatiel's journey is ultimately a tragic one, as she is doomed to forget and succumb to the curse alone in a foreign land. Like Solaire in Dark Souls 1, Lucatiel fights alongside the player as a powerful ally, yet her fate is ultimately sealed by the curse that afflicts her. Her emotional dialogue and touching story make her one of the most memorable characters in the series, and her tragic ending serves as a depressing reminder of the harsh realities of the world. Though technically 2 characters, I figured these best friends were a good way to send things off. Anri and Horace share a deep bond as childhood friends who escaped the clutches of Aldrich the Man-Eater, and are now determined to end his reign of terror. As they journey through the treacherous lands of Lothric, they rely on each other for strength and support. Tragically, their fate takes a turn for the worse, when Horace becomes separated from Anri and goes hollow. The loss of her friend sends Anri spiraling into despair, and she too is at risk of succumbing to the curse of hollowing. Despite their tragic ending, Anri and Horace's friendship remains a shining beacon of hope in the world of Dark Souls. Through each of these characters, we're reminded of the destructive power of guilt, regret, and obsession, as well as the importance of finding purpose and meaning in our lives. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and maybe gained a new appreciation for some of the Dark Souls characters. I would love to know if I missed any of your favorite characters, so make sure to let me know down below. But yep, that's all I got. Bye.